Well, Happy New Year. 2020 is here already. Today I'd like to show you a new device that I found at an antique store recently. You know, I've been doing a series of videos on obscure recording devices and recording formats. This particular device is a variation of a reel-to-reel tape recorder. And we've looked at some espionage wire recorders and some compact recording devices. This was the Japanese attempt to create a compact cassette. In the early 1960s, the compact cassette became really popular, and you know we're talking about the standard cassette. But this was a Japanese attempt to take the reel-to-reel to a more compact format. The device is called a Sanyo Micro-Pack 35. It was created in 1964 by the Japanese and quickly fell out of popularity after the compact cassette became a really popular format and everyone switched over to the compact cassette format for taping. This particular device is pretty unusual and rather expensive to find on YouTube. I found two. I was only able to locate two that were available on YouTube, and both of them are selling for around $500. And I stumbled on this one at an antique store recently near Charlotte and paid $50 for it. So I felt like I got a really good deal. And after a little fiddling and spraying some contacts and cleaning a couple things up, I got it working, and it works quite well considering the technology that it uses to move the tape around. I think you're going to find this interesting. Probably most of you have never seen one of these Micro-Pack 35 recorders and players before. I also converted a microphone that I had used for a wire recorder. I converted it to a mono 3.5 millimeter plug, and I've used it to do some recording on this particular recorder. So let's take a look at it a little closer and we'll go through it. There are a couple of other videos out on YouTube that describe this in a little more detail, and so I thought I would just give you a quick overview of what the Sanyo Micro-Pack 35 looks like. This Sanyo came in a nice leather case. It's in pretty good shape. There's no tears or anything on it. Initially, I saw this on the shelf and I thought it was a camera. As you can see, it looks a lot like a camera. Got the shutter control there and film winding control here. And it has a little tiny meter, battery meter, and audio level there. And I got to looking, and in the window, I could see what looked like a tape. So I pulled it out of the case and quickly discovered that this is actually a tape recorder. And I had never seen it. It's quite heavy. I don't know what the weight is. I haven't measured it, but it's quite heavy. It's heavier than a regular film camera. It's all metal. There's no plastic pieces. The tape inserts from the bottom, and you can see this is the cartridge, the tape cartridge, and it's actually two tapes stacked on top of each other. You can see it in the case there, that there are two rolls of tape medium, and they're crisscrossed. Initially, I thought it was like an 8-track continuous play, and then I realized that there are two discrete rolls of tape, and the tape head mechanism you can see down inside there is pitched on an angle to accommodate the angle of the tape on the cassette. So it just pops right in, just like that. And when it's not playing, the tape is not locked in any way, but when you flip to play, there's a pin that locks the tape in place so it can't be removed. Just a couple of quick things. The drive mechanism is accomplished through this little tiny hole right here. And the spindle, unlike a lot of tapes that you're familiar with, is right down inside, right there. And if you take a closer look, you'll see the spindle. And I'm going to turn the tape on and off, and you can see the spindle move up and down. Perhaps you can see it on the video. In any case, the little tiny spindle right there that slides right up the tape and contacts a rubber ring. There's a rubber ring attached to each one of the spools, and it's a rubber pad that this spindle spins on. When I first got this tape was all messed up. It was all tangled up. So I very carefully popped open the glue connections here and opened up the device and got it all untangled and rewound. And then I cleaned up the rubber pads so that they were a little smoother and they had a little bit of mildew or mold on them. And I glued it back together, and it seems to work. We'll listen to what's on the tape here. Apparently someone took this to a concert in Longwood, you can't remember, Longwood Municipal Concert Center or something like that. And it was the Cathedrals Quartet. And the only reason I know that is because they named several of the members of the quartet throughout the concert. J.D. Being the bass of the Cathedrals. What's his last name? Anyway, you'll recognize some of this music. It's not very good quality because the tape is so old. That is, the rubber tape, the rubber tire on the tape is so old that it doesn't grip real well. Let me just show you a couple more things before we play it. There's a speed control here, and the instructions on the back of the tape deck describe that you have a music setting and a speech setting. So when you're doing music, you want the tape to play faster and record music that way, so you get a better quality, but you get less time on the tape. And then for speech, you can slow it down and get longer record times because speech doesn't require near as much fidelity. So there's a rewind, a stop, play, and a record setting. And then there's a volume control here. I was really surprised at how well this unit played. So let's just listen to a few seconds of what's currently on the tape, and you'll notice the wow and the flutter is very poor, but considering 1964, I think we're in pretty good shape. So apparently it was a pretty big concert because there's a big crowd. You can hear the applause there. So it must have been a pretty big concert. Of course, cathedrals were wildly popular, and so it's not surprising that it was such a big crowd. I'm rewinding the tape right now, and we're going to go and do a little recording. I did do some test recording on a couple of records that I had here in the shack, and so I wanted you to hear the recording quality of some of the music that I just found here in the shack. So let's just see. I was experimenting with volume levels and all of that. So let's see if right here in the middle of it, let's see what we've got. Okay, that was a recording of playing a recorder that I did back in 1990. Seems like such a long time ago. So let's rewind a little further. I found a really cool album, trumpet band, rock band that was produced back in the 70s, and the artist was killed in a tragic plane crash. I don't know what kind of plane crash would not be a tragic, but in any case, he was killed in a plane crash. And I was in high school at the time, and I remember this band called Chase. So let's see if I can find some of that I had recorded on here. Again, probably not very good quality, but you do get the feel for how the tape player is working. See, the wall flutters pretty bad with this old tape. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning of the tape, and we'll do some of our own recording, and just to give you an idea of what speech sounds like on this tape recorder. So we'll just plug in our okay, I'm not sure what's going on there. Hope it didn't get tangled. Alright, we'll stop right there in the middle of that noise, and we'll just record right here. So what we do to record is we turn this, we pull up and turn it into play, turn it into record. And so now we're recording, and you can actually see the record level on the deck. If you watch the needle, you should be able to see the needle bumping right there. Let's see, can you see the needle bumping? I don't know, it's awful small. But we're recording right now and testing the Sanyo Micro-Pack 35, produced by Japan in 1963. So let's rewind this tape and see what kind of audio quality we have for speech. It's kind of complaining, doesn't really want to rewind. Okay. Now.
Sanyo Micro-Pack 35, produced by Japan in 1963. So let's rewind this tape. What kind of audio quality we have for speech?
All right. Well, there you have it. Not a great recording, but still capable of recording. The tape is really the biggest issue, is the tape is not in very good condition, and I'm not even sure that I could ever find another tape anywhere available. So that's the tape cartridge right there, and you can see pretty unusual setup. So the Sanyo Micro-Pack 35, I'm not even sure where the 35, what the 35 stands for. Might be the size of the compartment. I didn't measure it. 35 millimeters this way, perhaps. I don't know if there was a playoff on 35 millimeter cameras, or just what that 35 represents. All right. While we just listened to the Blackwood Brothers on the original tape, no telling when that was recorded. Probably in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s. I stumbled on this in my shack. I'm sorry, the camera is having trouble tracking. There we go. The Blackwood Brothers Quartet. This album was recorded in 71, and I'm going to record using the Sanyo recorder off of my record player here in the shack. So let's see how this sounds on the recording. Okay.
My heart was so heavy.
then I sang low, then I heard about Jesus. What a wonderful hour. I'm so glad that I found out he would bring me out through his saving power. Thank God I am free, free, free from this world of sin. Washed in the blood of Jesus, been born again. Hallelujah, I'm saved, saved, saved by his wonderful grace. I'm so glad that I found out he would bring me out, show me the way. Like a bird out of prison,
There's JD.
that's taken its flight. Like a blind man that God gave back his sight. Like a poor wretched beggar who found fortune and fame. I'm so glad that I found out he would bring me out to his holy name. Thank God I am free, free, free from this world of sin. Washed in the blood of Jesus, been born again.
Okay, I'm not going to continue. I don't think YouTube will give me a flag for playing that song. But we're going to play this recording back now and see how the both the speech and the audio recording worked out, playing a 2020 version of the Blackwood Brothers Quartet. Okay, we're back here over on the recording bench, and let's listen to the actual recording of the Blackwood Brothers and maybe some speech as well, and see how the quality turned out.
All right, we're going to record using this little bitty hand mic and see if it actually works on the recorder first before we...
Through his saving power, thank God I'm like a bird out of prison. That's taken its flight, like a blind man that God gave back his sight, like a poor wretched beggar who found fortune and fame. I'm so glad that I found out he would bring me up to his holy name. Thank God I am free, free, free.
I don't think YouTube will give me a flag for playing that song, but we're going to play this recording back now and see how the both the speech and the audio recording worked out, playing a 2020 version of the Blackwood Brothers Quartet.
All right. So there we have it. The audio quality was a lot more better, a lot better condition than I thought, frankly. And you can tell the speed goes up and down. But I really got a kick out of J.D. Sumner singing his solo and dropping down to the bottom notes there. So hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think, and if you enjoy this this series of vintage electronics.